Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I'm trying this mic back out. I'm hoping this works. I got the volume turned up, maxed the volume out, so hopefully there's no issues with the sound. Let me check the sound, however, and make sure that it's still turned up. Sometimes cutting on it does weird things. I hope everyone is doing okay tonight. I couldn't sleep, and I was wide awake, and like other real men who can't sleep and are wide awake, they do the news. Now, this one is not so much the news, even though on the very next one I have news because I just saw something that's worrying and that's profoundly dickish. At least I think that's the reasoning that the people are doing it. I was Politics is Bloodsport. That's what I want to talk about. A message to any lefty that takes office. That's what this is. Politics is Bloodsport. And I'm speaking on this specifically to the lefty, to the progressive, to the whatever, that happens to find themselves and stumble their way into power. We look at the world in a particular way, which is why I'm saying as a message to the lefty, politics is Bloodsport. I come to this because I have to come to this in a particular way. Because of the way I look at the world and the way I think lefties look at the world. And I think to some degree most people look at the world. This idea of fairness. I've had to unlearn some things and learn others as I go about my way on this channel. And I want to share some of that. Because I think this is one of those things that is something that lefties need to keep in mind if they happen to stumble into some level of power. I watched in 2008 after Obama took office, and Republicans worked themselves into such a tizzy. Now, understand this idea in politics, you have these two political parties, at least in our country. There are multiples in other countries. But understand, in other situations, these parties are warriors. This is a soft civil war to some degree when these guys are actually going at each other, which means they need to represent their interests vociferously, just like they would represent the interests if you were two warring parties into some kind of civil war. I say that to say that as long as you're doing that, you're going to get some degree of positivity from the people who are pushing you to do that, or the people who you're representing in that conflict. But at our standpoint, from the standpoint of our society, these warring sides, the people in our communities, our society, our globe, our country, have taken on this thing of implicitly they agree with one of these tribes, with independents who are abdicating themselves from the political process, implicitly agreeing at the very least to live by the guidelines that these two have chooses. If it gets to the point that the disagreements become irreconcilable, something is going to go outside of the political space. And these two, or something else, would fight for something, and they will break down the political parties when some resolution is settled. Here's the thing that I learned, though. Within the guidelines of the rules, within the guidelines of this political space, to the degree that the public itself won't balk and just completely leave the political space, everything is permitted, providing you win. Politics is Bloodsport. Right and wrong doesn't apply. Now, the thing is, that's hard for me to grasp. Right and wrong doesn't apply. That's one of those things that lefties grapple with, which is the reason why I'm doing this particular video. It's not the easiest thing in the world for us to deal with that part. Because to us, fairness is almost like a real thing. Fairness is almost like it's tangible. It's something that we can get our hands on. And when we watch them steal the Supreme Court seat from Obama, whatever you want to think of the policies of Obama, they went above and beyond for their constituents. Their job was to win. They didn't give a shit about social need. They didn't give a shit about anything else. Their job was to win. And they did so magnificently. They were opposition to a shitty, repugnant cause. But they were opposition nonetheless to that cause. Right and wrong doesn't apply. Even though for the longest time, for the entirety of their presidency, I said to myself, what they're doing is wrong. And what they're doing is so fucked up. And by the same token, whether or not it's fucked up or not, whether or not we consider it wrong, it gets results in a 1. This is what I'm getting at. Within the political space, there is no God. And if there is no God, there's no purpose. And there's no point. If there is no God, if there is no purpose, if there is no point, then this idea of right or wrong melts away. There's no such thing as right or wrong in the larger context. There's only action and consequence. Action and consequence is the only thing that's actually real. This other stuff, human conceptions, cultures, and all this other stuff gets intermingled into this idea of right and wrong. In the political space, one must heed that. And I say, whatever you think of this idea of right, wrong, the universe, and everything else in the political space, I don't know who your God is. So no, I can't necessarily be held by those rules and regulations in the same way that you don't know who my God is. So those are off the table. We're stuck with this idea of action and consequence. And from the standpoint of action and consequence, your job is to get results. That's it. The problem with the Democratic Party is that you've started to eat your base. Meaning you started to eat the thing that you're supposed to philosophically represent. And in doing so, have lost your way. It's funny. My mom used to say, I don't want you to be a lawyer or a politician. Because what you learn in doing so is not necessarily the things that you wanted a person, or at the very least your son, to learn. Nevertheless, I'm getting into the mindset that there needs to be a bad guy with a good cause. Meaning, right and wrong can't apply. If you get into power and you're Harry Reid and the Republican Party is blocking you from trying to get either your picks in the courthouse, you strip away the filibuster. You break the opposition, because when you are out of power, they're going to do the same thing to you, which is exactly what they did to you. Stole your pick. And then, the moment that they get in power, get to the point of saying, hey, if you get rowdy, we're going to strip away that filibuster, buddy. I'm making the point that you need to be brutal in pursuit of your cause. No, you can't necessarily go to the point where you lose your way. But the problem with the Democratic Party, let me explain to you, Republican Party should never have been able to hold a house. These people are maniacs. Their knuckles drag through the ground when they walk. And yet they win. And you have to interrogate that thing of why they win. Part of the reason that they win is because you have turned on yourself. You've started to eat yourself. Your philosophical purpose is to not represent the plutocratic class. It's just not. If you were in Britain, ideally, this idea of labor, you've turned on the things that actually get you elected. And you've used this idea of you have nowhere else to go as a fear tangent or a fear specter to get elected in place of actually representing your base. Understand what I'm saying? In a party that is supposed to represent labor vociferously, full-throatedly, unabashedly, you've allowed plutocratic interests, the billionaire class, to get a slot, to get a vote, an overriding vote, I would argue, in the vision and the perspective of the party itself. Because you've allowed that, you're trying to balance two things that don't balance. This utopian idea that you can have plutocrats and workers when both of these things are antagonistic to one another. And in real regard is what the class conflict, this division that requires the political space in the first place. is about. You are floating off this idea. Or you can say it's almost like the momentum from the FDR era. Using that without necessarily having the actual bricks that made that work. And you're finding that the public itself has become aware of it. You're eating yourself. And let me explain what I mean by this. The moment that you've gotten to the point where you started to take cash at prodigious proportions, the Clinton era, and the moment that after you take that, you say to yourself, I can take this because these other sniveling bitches have nowhere else to go. You've immediately broken the connection between this idea of labor, the 99%, and your policies. Now, the political space becomes two plutocratic billionaire classes that are essentially going after one another, with a Democratic Party that says, look, we are incrementally better. And we are going to scream how this incrementalism is actually something larger than what the incrementalism is. And we're going to tell you that we're better than the Republican Party because these incremental things. It's almost like a capitalistic model, like they're trying to sell a product. That product saying, look, we have less fat than the other stuff, so buy us. That's not what you're supposed to be. You already have a class for the plutocrats. That class is called the Republican Party. You're surprised that you've lost so much, but why are you surprised when there already is a Republican Party? You don't need two of those. You can't be brutal when your interests are essentially tethered to the thing that you actually need to be brutal against. This is kind of what I'm getting at. If you're a lefty and you tend to get into political space, understand and accept that the brutality in defense of the people who you represent is God's work. And that right and wrong in pursuit of this in no way applies. You need to be like Republicans, however, on the side of the angels. This is kind of what I'm getting at. Dispel this idea that right and wrong applies. Regardless of what position of power you get in as a lefty, dispel this idea that right and wrong applies. You are to represent your populist interests in a full-throated degree that you can represent your populist interests, and if you do so, you're doing God's work. There's an episode of Xena, Warrior Princess, that I like. Some people call it racist. I think it was fucking awesome. Xena gets to be in I think she was in India. She was going on this walkabout in India. And she's having qualms about being a warrior. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the Xena Warrior Princess, it is a lesbian's dream. She's walking the earth. She's beast. The woman is fucking awesome. Fights gods on many occasions. And can stand toe-to-toe with gods. And she's having qualms about this. She's like, fuck, man, I killed a lot of people. I mean, feel bad about this. And she's talking to a guru, and the guru is making this point to her, saying, look, your path in this life is to be a warrior. That's what you're supposed to be. Nothing else. Don't have qualms and be against what you are. Your path is to be a warrior. And in the last moment, she's about to be killed, and all of it clicks. And this Indian god bestows all of these powers upon her once she accepts her path is supposed to be a warrior. It's a fucking awesome episode. I'm making the point that the same thing is kind of true here. As long as you, as a political person, be it a populist, unique to populism, by the way, and I'm talking about from the left, unique to this, you will be fine. Your crowd will be fine. Don't fall into identity politics and all this other stuff. Your path is to essentially represent your base and do it brutally. Right and wrong doesn't apply. And I would guarantee you that your base will be there for you. They will cheer you on because at the end of the day, what they want is for you to do just that. The Democratic Party can never do that. under the model to which they have established, because they are a captured party. That is a problem, and as a problem, it will eat themselves alive. The model, if you have nowhere else to go, ultimately trying to scare the shit out of people into voting for you, like the Sam Cedars of the world, again, one concentration camp less, is faulty at best. Think about what's taking place with unions. Unions is one of the mainstays for the Democratic Party. They are the leg weight. They are the muscle for the Democratic Party. I don't mean it as pejorative. I just mean this idea. Yes, plutocrats are going to have cash. So ideally, Democrats are going to be overspent. Not anymore. But what have they lost in the process of that? Look at what's taking place with unions all across the United States. Unions was an organization of labor. They are being bashed and brutalized all throughout the United States. And as they lay there bleeding from one Supreme Court pick that the Democrats allowed to be taken, Democratic Party, for all those years, just watched. Just watched. Apathetic. Making the argument that you're better off with our apathy as opposed to the batshit crazy maniacs who's out to get you. They said the same thing to blacks. They said the same thing to Hispanics. The political hacks will scream at you if you bring this up, saying the Republicans are worse. Be happy with status quo. The Republicans are worse. That needs to change and that needs to break. And part of their failure is because that model is breaking and creaking at the seams. If you're a lefty, be a lefty. Be unabashed in being a lefty. And break the political opposition. Do not, please don't fall into identity politics. Please don't fall into identity politics. By the same token, represent each. Represent each. So, look, all I'm saying is we as lefties have this thing in us that fairness is a real thing. And while you need to operate that way from the standpoint of with other people who are in the same vein of thought, fuck the opposition. If you get head of the DNC, you purge all of the other Democrats who didn't necessarily toe your line. Yes, I'm brutal. Fuck them. This is trying to change this country, and if they're getting in the way of doing that, they're getting in the way of doing that. They need to be broken. They would do the same thing to you. They've done the same thing to you all throughout the United States. Fuck them. The Peter Dows of the world. Fuck them. They need to lose. I'm making the point that politics is blood sport. None of this other stuff matters. Right and wrong doesn't apply. Politics is blood sport. So, that's where I'm at. Do you have Comcast? It's slow as shit today. You're at 240. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm at 240. There is one absolute wrong. Anything that comes from little Ben Shapiro's mouth, Democrats will only grow a spine and stand up for people with big pharma and biotech makes them one with Wall Street. You know, it's funny. They said the one time that they will have a spine is if you were trying to, protect their donors. Agreed. You are fucking awesome compared to 7 billion on the planet. I don't say that much. Like deceiving your brace for the greater good isn't the kind of wrong we should engage in. Yes, that's my point. Represent your base. Represent the people who are putting you in the office and expand your base. And what I mean by expand your base is expand it honestly. Their business model is utterly corrupt. And their business model is eating away at the seams of the support of the people who would need them. You're surprised that they lost? You're surprised that they lost? 8 years. 8 years. Hope and change. 8 years. Throw your body for the bankers, but let the homeowners go bust. Homeowner bust Obama. 8 years. If you want people to represent you, you need to do the same thing for them. Browbeating people for not voting for your candidate is not it. You should be able to point to something. Thoughts about Iran plea deal. Holy Cannabis Oil, I haven't fully watched it, looked at that. I saw people saying that there was something to it. I saw it was essentially you couldn't necessarily prosecute for anything that took place prior. I don't know the details, so can't really talk about it. 21st century FDR, YouTube detected a low energy blogger and set it to 144. Set it to 144 for me. I can't understand how people forget they're trying to better things for all of us in the election or whatever. Yeah, my side wins. When you put hope and change on the ballot, lead with your values, your donors win. You know, it's sad. It's completely sad. I watch Republicans steal a seat, and I watch a group of low energy Democrats just whine about it. It's like, what are you going to do? Bleed all day? Any procedure, every stop, Bloodsport is right. If we've learned nothing else, I think in the last 8 years, I think we've learned that. Whatever you want to say about Republican Party, they fought for their donors. They fought for their donors. And you can make a case for the Democratic Party. They did the same. The difference is fighting for their donors is essentially attacking their base. You can see the problem here. The people who actually want to try to get you elected being marginalized. That's somewhat of a problem. That's called losing elections. Yes, when you start making politics sport analogies, you're headed down the wrong path. This is a game. Asteroid is coming. This is kind of my point, Gardner. Can you do anything about the asteroid? Playing the politics in this way. Meaning you have one party that can't get anything done, completely feckless. And you look at the reason why their party is feckless is because it's essentially against its base. It's pivoted itself. We need to take cash, even though we're philosophically set not to do that. I mean, you're talking about a party that in kind of this vein of FDR speaks in this language. Well, if the public doesn't believe that you're doing that, then what is the public supposed to do? These people are lying to us. Outright, these people are lying to us. They lost knuckle draggers. The most rabid group of Republicans. Republicans should never have a house. Should never have a House of Representatives. It's fucking amazing. Look, man, the thing is, you're still in the box. They would never let us have power with the system the way it is and the president constructed. 144 as well. Guys, I'm not seeing... I do see it in 144. I don't know why it's doing that. And I don't think my internet is running slow. My internet is at what it normally is. It's like 2971. I'm not sure why it's doing the fuzzy thing. I'll check this afterwards to see if it's put together in a better way after the fact. Spooks are working in conjunction with the Comcast to use net neutrality new rules to throttle Jamal. Oh, God, I hope that's not it. Democrats are trying to fix a sliced femoral artery with a small circle bandage to forehead. Jesus Christ. Small circle bandage to forehead. You can set it to 1080 and it looks better. I think it's because Comcast is slow today. Oh, I see. Because this wasn't the first time this happened. This happened a few times. They're saying it's automatically defaulting to 144, but you guys can change the quality of it if you want. They never wanted to make a pick for possible justice that might vote against Citizens United. They're instructed not to make it. See, I don't believe that. I love Michael Peretti. Michael Peretti is a badass. Absolute badass. I don't think it's you, dude. It's a net. No, Gardner, I agree with you. They're setting it to they're auto setting it, or they're defaulting it for some reason. It's fucking weird. Look, I don't think they're doing that on purpose. Like I honestly don't. You think they're You think they're doing something in order to gut the chances for Citizens United. I don't think that. I think they're just that bad. I think they're that bad. And I think they're that bad because they're weak. They're utterly weak. Look at Tom Perez, Chris Hayes, Bernie Sanders. And I say that, I use that as my example because I think that's the epitome of the problem with the party. Bernie Sanders says what he needs to say from the standpoint of a lefty. People love it. That guy seems earnest to me. That guy seems earnest. Now, the reason is because Bernie Sanders is getting $27 from a wide distribution of people, so Bernie Sanders can say what Bernie Sanders wants. Perez, not so much. Tom Perez knows if he opens his mouth, they're going to stop giving him money. A very small section of the population will stop giving him money. So he shuts up, and he doesn't take a particular line. That's kind of my point and problem between these two things. One says what they need, the other is captured. I don't want a captured party. I don't want a captured party. I don't know why anybody will want a captured party. There's a problem here. Politics is Bloodsport. And you can't draw the knife if your work is as thick as thieves with the guy who you're supposed to put it into. That's kind of my point. Bernie Sanders is a cuck. What part of that don't you get, Jamal? He's not a cuck. Not a cuck. You don't think they would intentionally not make a Supreme Court pick that might be too liberal when they blatantly screw Bernie because they might be too liberal? What do you think they ordered that? I think they're that inept. I think they're that inept. I think they're that bad, honestly. I think they're that utterly, contemptibly inept. That's what I think. I don't think it's because I think ultimately they still want to win. I don't think they would necessarily want to lose in that way. I think they want to win. I think they're just that inept. I think they've arranged themselves with this Faustian bargain that has created this weird situation where they end up going after their base with this idea that, look, we've given you radical incrementalism. Why aren't you happy? This is the best that we can do under the model to which we exist, where we need to take large money from plutocrats. Well, that's a fail. That looks inherently dishonest because you utterly can't get anything accomplished under that model. So they lose. That's what I think. I don't think it's on purpose. I guess that's my point. I don't think they fail that badly on purpose. I think they are just that inept, that incomprehensibly inept. Speaking of Bloodsport, Democrats tried to split between their donors and their donors, but they aren't Jean-Claude Van Damme. They can't do splits. Somehow, my $2 and $5 super chats options are wrong. They try to split between their donors and their donors. Guys, mine also automatically defaulted to 144, but you can change the value. So it doesn't have to be on 144. You don't have to watch me blur it. You can change it. I don't know what they're doing. They're fucking around, but you can change it. Our only chance is to follow the example of the last time a movement completely destabilized society, turn on, tune in, and drop out of the system. You just covered an example of Democrats choosing a Trump supporter over a populist. How can you say they always try to win? Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I take the knee. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's brutal, Gardner, but you're right. Fair enough. Look, I don't believe that they intentionally do that. The Trump supporter, yes. Yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. Fair enough. Perez on Bill Press today was torture. Perez on anything is torture. disappointed at Senator Tammy Duckworth for boneheaded comment on Ocasio-Cortez. I am solid. Jamal's not being honest. Okay. All right. Sure. They did that with Trump himself. I think they thought Trump was going to be a fall guy. I don't think they put Trump up thinking he was going to win. When you look at the WikiLeaks documents, it is clear in those documents that they were using him as a Pied Piper. But the whole point in the Pied Piper strategy is we'll play him up because he's so inept and so bad that we can beat him. They were that inept, or they lost to the guy that was so inept. They didn't run Sanders against Trump in part because they were afraid the populist reform. Oh, you're trying to say that? No, I see what you mean. Keep in mind, there are some of them who have this McGovern thing in their heads. You know, the last one that they thought, it lost, 49 states? So I'm sympathetic to some degree to some who may be these old code warriors, these dinosaurs that have this thought in their heads. I don't think that's all of them. I think there's moneyed interest in the way they go about their affairs. I'll give you a perfect example. My wife and I have started working remotely. And when I started working in this way, the hardest thing about doing this job is doing this job. You get programmed in a particular way when you go about your affairs, and you behave in a particular way for our society for X number of years, what we consider to be work. Well, the moment that you break that particular model of work, you start having this thing of, wait a minute, is this work? It is work, it's just a different type of work, but the transition between one from the other creates this weird item that you deal with. And it wasn't just me, my wife, same thing. When she started working this other job, making more money, working from home, she's doing something similar, and even that, she was like, she had qualms. You get programmed. You're programmed into a mindset. They're human beings. They get programmed into mindsets of believing that's the only way to go about their affairs because that's the only way they remember to go about their affairs. And trying to pull them from that is not the easiest thing to do. But it is something that is required if you want anything real to take place. Because the fact is, their donors are not going to allow the changes in a society that you want. And if you're completely relying on the party that is relying on their donors in this way, you will never get anything. You will remain frustrated. You would watch TYT and you will hear their little anger and everything else, but at the end of the day, you will vote Democrat, but you will be pissed doing so. And you would do so only because a Republican is a maniac. So, I'm worried that Republicans might join the cause. I'm worried that Republicans that might join the cause are going to confuse AOC as meaning age of consent and automatically be against it. What? I'm worried that Republicans that might join the cause are going to confuse AOC Cortez as being age of consent and automatically be against it. Oh, jeez. Look, I always make the argument that my goal in this is not to get the entirety of the country. My goal in this is just to get the majority. Now, there were a ruling coalition under the Obama administration that I will dollars to donuts that you can build on that from the left. You can build on that from the left. The Democratic Party lost to reality shows. Put that shit in context. That should get something across that there's a problem there. There's a severe problem there if you're losing to reality shows. All right, there's another story that I want to get to. You should mount your mic boom arm off your desk, then you can Slam your hands without distorting the audio. Oh, good point. Good point. I don't have anything that's off my desk though, but that's a good point. Did you see you were mentioning a YouTube channel musical reaction video? The guy wants to debate your communist guy, Uru. No way! No way! Lorem's Uru, he's a debater, man. He would, because I've seen him in like one debate after the next. He is a battler. It's the funniest shit you'd ever see in your life. It's awesome. I don't agree with he is scorched earth like fuck. You're talking about, like he's committed. He's committed. My question to him was, are you going to shoot a cop? All the shits and giggles to the side. Is that what you're saying? Because ultimately, if you're talking about, we got to fight back and we need to, proletariat needs to rise up. Well, that's what a revolution looks like. Shooting cops in the face. Those are the arms of the government. That's the military aspect of the government. That's what you're doing. Or at the very least, the military aspect of the government in civilian terms. Now, I didn't see it, but that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. Beltazar, I could see every misstep on Bernie's side is being orchestrated by the DNC under threats about taking away nomination. You can criticize Bernie all you want, but no other progressive has his numbers. Yeah, agreed. And look, Dorr is going after Bernie, and I understand it. I know there are a lot of people that were hurt by it. But I know of no other path. Like the first time, literally, in my lifetime, where there's a potential path to the White House. And it's from a guy who calls himself a socialist. Or a democratic socialist, anyway. But you know what I mean. Yeah. I'm not hitting Sanders on that. Yeah. Most self-styled leftists are just libertarians who want free stuff too. The thing is, libertarians is not, that's, I guess you can call them, just right-wingers in this country, but libertarians in another country wasn't right-wingers. We must go through the courts. That is the only way to reform the parties. And then Garnome, yeah. Yes, courts. Absolutely courts. Leave without vows, bores. I don't know why the comedy jokes makes me laugh. I think it's because I'm not a commie. I think if I felt like, God damn it, he's nailing me out, I think I feel some kind of way about it. I think it's just funny. My wife the other day, she says, yeah, my comrades and I was like, whoa, be careful, man. Be careful. You got some Democrats in your midst. Be careful. Jesse Ventura 2020. Jesse talks about running, but I think Jesse is just bullshitting. I don't think he's really talking about running. Chuck E. Cheese Jamal, if you could get Potholes 54A would be amazing. His 30-part series on climate change is very thorough. What is it? I've been trying to get somebody on here for climate. There was a gentleman from Ottawa that I tried to get on here that ended up falling through. 54 potholer. PT. Chuck E. Cheese, I'll try. Yeah, I've been trying to get somebody for climate change on the channel. I agree with you, Jamal. Say what you will about Obama and Merrick Garland, but goddamn it, Merrick Garland should be on the Supreme Court. Yes. Whatever you want to say about anything else, whatever you want to say. You could say that guy's milquetoast. Agreed. You could say he should have put somebody else. Agreed. You could say that I don't particularly like Merrick Garland and Obama is playing politics with Merrick Garland. Agreed. But his ass should be on the Supreme Court right now. They stole that seat. They pilfered that seat in broad daylight. Stole it outright. Democrats were weak as can be, agreed. But they stole that seat. I'm sure Jamal will still be not keeping this one long when I get home from the bar Got to get destroyed like HA in a debate on this channel. See ya. Oh, did AJ shit himself today? The the Senate thing, the Russia thing. I know he was probably like, what the fuck? The Senate is in on it. I don't know. Jimmy just trying to gain people's trust back too late. Too late for what? Chuck E. Cheese. Pardola 54 was a UN representative in the 1990s, and he loves to appear almost anywhere to talk about it, especially small channels, and is actual climate expert. Yes, good. I'm gonna hit him up. I've literally have been trying to find somebody for the climate change thing, because I have questions, not about the climate change part, but I have questions that deniers like to ask, that I kind of want to put towards them. I want him to knock it down. HA shit himself. Go on. No. I said, did he? And I'm saying that as a joking way. The Senate report comes out about the Russia stuff. I was curious about what HA was saying on this channel. If Bernie doesn't run, who are you all really going to vote for? The usual easy names. If Sanders doesn't run, I can't see him voting for anybody. Tulsi, maybe. Otherwise, I just say, oh well. It's weird that people now look to Jimmy as some sort of inspirational leader. A little bit. I don't think he's an inspirational leader. I think what happened was that after the election, there were very few people that were pushing real hard for this thing of, look, vote for the person you think is going to represent you. And that woman isn't representing your interests, and something needs to change. And there was political pressure that was brought to bear on him and other people of that particular political faction. I think they look at that. They remember it. That's what I think. Oh, it was a Russiagate joke. Fair enough. Well, oh, it was a Russiagate joke. See, I thought it was a commie joke. We're working our own context. Who burns? I think people look to Jimmy as being honest about his views. Yeah. Even his audience doesn't agree. Yeah. I've seen stuff that Doors put on, and I'm like, But I don't think he's lying about it. I think they think he's earnest. Shawari Kate has been having that shit eaten orgasm in his pants look on his videos today. I can't stomach listening. Just notice that grin. So just notice the grin. That's funny. One does not forget the last time one shit himself. I bet one doesn't. Yeah, I bet one doesn't. That's hilarious. One doesn't forget the moment one shit himself. All right, let me end this because there's actually big news that's taking place in Ecuador right now. And I want to talk about it. It's fucking weird. It has to do with Julian Assange, kind of, tangentially. But it more so has to do with the previous Ecuadorian president getting arrested, or at the very least, a warrant out for his extradition. I shit you not. Let's take a look at this one. I'll see you back maybe 3 minutes, however long it takes to flip between the two videos. Thanks, guys. If you enjoy the content, of course, feel free to share, like, subscribe, of course. You can always support through Patreon. Thanks, guys.